discuss different types of object-oriented principles. Okay, so there are different object-oriented principles. So first we will try to understand that what need for any object-oriented programming. Earlier you have procedural language, that is C programming language. So here we have to understand that why to application, why object-oriented programming is required, and in which context object-oriented programming is required, and for solving what kind of procedural programming language. Then according to the syllabus, this syllabus is huge. You can just go through it in your university portal. So the volume of this syllabus is huge. It's very difficult to cover within one semester, but still syllabus or curriculum you have to complete it as much as possible. So we are going to just later on we are going to develop some application. For designing an application, concepts are required that will be discussed here. So you have to understand the basic principles of designing a software. Most of the things in the perspective of design and development of the software will be discussed in software engineering class, whether it is in this current semester or semester.
It's
Software
in the current
engineering
semester, sir.
It is in the current semester. Okay, so the things are very related, but in software engineering programming language, but here we are focusing on programming language. The next thing is we have to understand MVC architecture works and why it's important, why we need to divide a large application into multiple smaller modules. That will be discussed in this section. And finally, you have to learn some design patterns. There are lots of design patterns. You have to learn some design patterns which are very frequently used in designing any complex software solution. Okay. So that's the main issue. So these are the course outcome of this paper. Okay. So you don't need to just go through it. Just you can go through this text part, because the rest of the thing is mapped with something else. It's basically Bloom's taxonomy. So as we know that you are studying in this city, so each and every program of each and every university or any college needs to be standardized. As you know that there are different types of standardization. ISO is very okay. Similarly, for academics, we have to follow some standardization which is just fixed by ABET, US organization, who are fixing this standardizing the course curriculum. Okay, so you have to obey that rules. Otherwise, when you will just complete this your graduation, then you will not be able to join in any company in other countries. So we have to follow this standardization guidelines. That's why we are configuring it with the BT level. It's basically a configuration which is set by it's the full form of BT is Bloom's taxonomy. So you have to follow this taxonomy. These are known as outcome. So these course outcomes are actually mapping is being mapped with this Bloom's taxonomy level. Okay, you will understand that what's the relationship between this. Now, according to NBA, we have points. So every graduate should cover these points. So these are basically program outcomes. So PO stands for program outcome. So program outcome means for each and every program computer science engineering, whereas course is the object oriented programming, software engineering. These are the courses say that program is computer science and engineering is a program, information technology is another program. Okay, so overall in one program you have lots of courses. So combining all the courses, all the program outcomes should be matched. So in this paper we can map only these 6 program outcomes. Okay, so that's why we are preparing this mapping. So questions will be prepared. So on your question paper, when you will receive a question paper, in online mode generally we don't follow it, but in case of offline mode we are preparing a question paper. Then we are focusing that in each and every section there will be question. So questions should be given from each and every part of this course outcomes. Okay, all these course outcomes will be covered there. Okay, so that's the just few things we have to tell you, because it's according to NBA guidelines. Going back to our course, so let's try to understand that why this one is important, why object-oriented programming language.
Excuse me,
When you
sir.
are writing, yeah.
Sir, your voice is breaking in between.
So I'm connected in college network. I don't know why this problem is arising every day. It's breaking. If it's network related issue, then I have nothing to do with that. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So let's start with this basic concept of object-oriented programming. In procedural programming language, whenever you have written some program in that class in C, or during design analysis of algorithm, or in data structure and algorithms, in those papers, what you have written, most of the time we are focusing on logic. So when you are writing some program, some logical problems are being solved in that way. But we are not, we are more focused on processing, managing data. But still in C programming language, we have used data structure. Okay, so we have implemented lots of data structures. We have, so that we can combine related information together, we can club them together, we can bind. But the problem in C programming language still is basically we are unable to provide C. In today's world, when we are developing some application, at that time we have to be more focused on data instead of programming concept. But programming concept is obviously there, but we are more focused on data. So we are more focused on classes and objects. In C programming, you can work with different types of user-defined data types, like array, like structure or union, where we are clubbing multiple attributes. So if we want to define a structure book, we can club all the related attributes for identifying a book, and we can enclose them within a structure. So similarly, we can define another structure like chair, table. So the identifying attributes will be enclosed in. Okay, but two structures are different. The reason is the distinguishing attributes by which you can understand that this is book, this is chair, or this is table. Okay, but the problem is, if we want to manage it using structure, and if we want to write in C programming language, the major issue comes here. The major issue is basically the we are unable to provide security in every dimension. So if we create a structure variable, if we pass it to a function, then from that function, each and every member is accessible with same right. We can't define the members in such a way that this member is accessible from everywhere, this member is not accessible from everywhere, this is accessible within this structure only. So these things cannot be managed because we don't have any access specifier in C programming language. So to solve this problem, object-oriented programming languages comes to the development. Okay. So when we are thinking of an object-oriented programming language, there are some basic principles which are to be followed. So these principles are basically inheritance, polymorphism, okay, so abstraction, so many more things are there. Instead of just telling you the names, let us try to understand one after another. Okay, so the purpose of object-oriented programming language is basically when we are dealing with some data, we are clubbing related information together. Okay, that's the. So instead of structure, here we are getting some. These options are basically security related. So we access of the members of a class in restricted way, which is not possible in structure. So what structure? So okay, you know about structure. So what is class and what is object? We have to understand class and object first, because this is the building block of any object oriented programming. Okay. So what is class? What do you understand by class? Can you just tell me that this is class?
A blueprint sort of thing.
Okay, blueprint. Okay, blueprint means, can you just explain?
Basically, if I'm trying to define a chair, I'll say how many legs it has and what color it is. So basically, I am giving a design and a blueprint of the chair, defining the class.
Okay, and what is object?
Object is basically the thing we are getting out of that blueprint, which is like the table in that case.
Okay, okay, so let's discuss what is class and what is object. So class, so you know the word classification. So classification means,
So before this, I have a question.
yeah,
Uh, like you said that in C programming we can't do that control. Suppose there's a structure and we pass the variables, so we won't be able to control each and every elements of that structure. So is this the only reason why OOPS came into effect?
no, there are many other reasons like inheritance, polymorphism, abstraction, many things are there. I've just given you one example. So all these principles are the basic thing of any object-oriented programming. Otherwise, in C programming language, we can just incorporate this concept of this access specifier. Now, there are many things which are associated. We are going to discuss those things one after another. Okay. So, what is class and what is object? As we know that if we want to classify something, how do you distinguish that this is chair and this is table or this is book? What are the properties of a book?
Sir, it has pages, information in it, whereas a table and chair are two types of furniture. So we can classify them both as different things.
Okay, how do you differentiate
Sir,
chair and table?
by their features, characteristics, their appearance, that is the way we do that.
Yeah. So when we are in C programming language, when you are defining a structure, at that time you have identified the attributes or characteristics by which you can distinguish it with the other structures. Similarly, if we say book and if we say room, for both of these types of things, we have length, width, and height. But using only these three properties, we can't distinguish a book and a room. In a book, we have number of pages, we have author information, we have many more attributes which are available. But in case of room, we don't have this property. Number of pages is not a property of a room, whereas number of windows, number of doors, color, then these are the properties of any room. Okay, so you have to identify all the properties or attributes by which you can distinguish two different types of things. So if we can distinguish, we can identify the attributes, then we can create or define a class. At this moment, those who are very beginner, you may think that it's like a structure, but there are lots of differences. So when you are defining a structure, you are identifying the attributes. Similarly, in case of object-oriented programming language, when we are defining a class, we have to identify the attributes. Okay, by which it can be separated from others. Now, what is object? If we talk about object, so what is object? So chair, table, these things are classes. So chair is a class, table is a class. So we have only identified the properties and we have defined it accordingly. Now if we want to get some instance which has real existence, like book, if I tell you that book, so do you have, how many information do you have? I have a book. Do you have, how many information you are getting from here? Do you know the name of the author? Do you know the name of the book, year of publishing, then number of pages, cover color, number of figures
No,
within
sir.
the book? So none of these are available. Now I have a book, you have another book. Say I have, right now I have a book of C programming language written by Gottfried. It has a real existence, but book doesn't have real existence. Book is a concept. Okay, but the book I have on my table, that has a real existence. So this book, specifically this book is an object of book class. Okay, if I show you a pen, can I say that this is a book? No, because the properties, we know that what are the properties of a book, but for a pen these properties doesn't match. Okay, so pen is a different class, book is a different class. Okay, but the pen I have, this is an object of pen class. The pen you have, that pen is an object of pen class. Okay, so the chair on which I'm sitting right now, this chair is an object of chair class. All the chairs which you can see just beside me, those chairs are again objects of chair class. They have real existence, but chair is a concept. If I say room, can you tell me the color of room, number of windows in room, number of doors, what's the material used for floor, is there any ceiling or not? So can you tell me this information? No. So these are the properties. Now when we are creating an object of room class, say the room you are sitting right now, in that room the color is fixed. So color is a attribute or property. Now if the color of the walls is white in your room, then the value is white for that object. So the object is in which room you are sitting right now, that's an object of room class. So if it has a real existence, all the attributes will be set by some value. Is it fine?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So this is the basic difference
Yes, sir.
between. So this is the basic difference between class and object. So an object is basically, in technical term, we say that an object is an instance of a class. Okay. So what does it mean? So like, if you want to build, after joining in a company, you have earned some money and you have decided that you want to build a house. Okay. You will go to civil engineer. Okay, you will meet civil engineer, then after discussion you will decide that okay, this is the plan, I want to build my house based on this plan. So this plan or prototype, this is a class. So at the very beginning, as you have mentioned, that it's a prototype. So this plan or this prototype is class, and object is based on that plan. If I build my house, then it's an object. If I build another house, like using that same plan, if Kriti is building another house in different location, Apramit is building another house in another location, then these houses are basically the objects of the class. So object of the house class. So the classes basically we have taken during discussion with the civil engineer as a building plan. So that based on that prototype, we have built these houses. Okay, so these are the objects, but plan doesn't have real existence. It's just concept. So it's a class. Now you can classify whatever you can see in your surroundings. You can identify that this is a class and this is an object. Okay. Now we are trying to identify the relationship among them. So we are going to discuss, not today, we'll discuss inheritance. So how to and why inheritance is required. Okay. So try to understand that object-oriented programming language is basically a programming language where we can work with objects efficiently. So all these things are not available in procedural language, but there is obviously there is a importance of procedural language because those things are used for solving very complex problems. Okay. Now, so is it fine, or if you have any query on this basic discussion of class and object, we may discuss, because these things should be very clear. Everyone should be very clear about it, that what is class and what is object. Otherwise we can't proceed. Otherwise from next class you will not probably join in this meeting. If you have any doubt, we can discuss at any time.
Sir, can the attributes of a class be considered as an object?
It can be an object, but we can't ensure it. The things will be discussed during inner class. Okay. Okay. So up to this, is it fine? Okay. Now,
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
okay.
Yes.
So if I want
Sir.
to keep, yeah.
Sir, how the attributes can be an object, sir? Can you give an example?
Okay, I'm coming to that. Just by today it will be discussed in few minutes. Just give me some time. Okay. Let us keep this information, student information. So student is a class. Teacher is another class. Okay. Similar, just for this college or institute, if we think that there are different types of designations and posts, so people are working here. So teachers are there, students are there, admin staffs are there, group D staffs are there. So based on the job role, we are working here. Now we have to keep this information. So I have to define, so student will be a class. There are some properties that a student have, and this properties is not available with all other classes, like roll number. So roll number is an attribute which should be available in student class. But do you think that roll number is available with teacher, group D staff, other office staff, or faculty members? So this is not an attribute. But for these types of employees, they have employee ID. Okay. Now there are some attributes which are available in teacher class. The same attributes are not available in group D staff or office staff. So we can distinguish these classes based on the attribute. So our objective is, when we are designing something, the first task is we have to identify the attributes by which we can separate them. As we have identified roll number, university registration number, employee ID. So these attributes belongs to different classes, and these are the attributes. These attributes are unique in the classes. Okay. Now, if I want to keep this information, so student, teacher, group D staff, or office staff. So these are the different classes we can define. Now think that based on these different classes, is there anything common? I have to keep this information about these people. So is there anything?
College.
Unique ID.
The college name.
Okay.
Sir, the place they study and work, that is the college.
Aadhaar
Okay.
card.
The gender, age.
Yeah, for everyone I have to keep this information: gender, age, date of birth,
Name.
Okay. Now think of address. Address itself is a collection of lots of things, isn't? An address, if we say address, when you are trying to fill a form, then there are generally two types of addresses we use. One is permanent address, another one is present address. Now for both of these address, pattern is same. So it actually belongs to address class. Okay. Now if we talk about address, address is an attribute of student class. Address is an attribute of teacher class. Address is an attribute for all other types of employees. But what's the more? Think of the structure of an address. An address structure, you can define, if you want to write it in C programming language, you can say that I will create a student structure. Now within student structure, I will use another structure, address. So address is a member of student structure, isn't? You have used inner structure or nested structure. In C programming language, you have learnt it.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So similarly, here when we are thinking of defining a student class or teacher class, we can create another class, address, and the members of this address class will be building number, then name of the
Post office.
housing or residential area, then name of the road, then post office, then if you have some nearby, some renowned
Landmark.
location, yeah, so
Landmark.
you can use this on that landmark as an attribute. Then you can use other attributes like city, district, state, and country. So these are the attributes of address class. Okay, so this address itself is a class. Now we can use this address as a member of student class. Similar to C programming, when you are defining student structure, you are defining student structure with all these attributes where one member is address, and you are defining address as another structure. Okay, So you are using it as a nested structure, or separately you are defining it and using it as a member of the student structure. Similarly, in object-oriented programming, we are defining a class. We can define a class student, we can define a class teacher, we can define the class for all other employees, where address is another class which is being used as a member of this class. Is it fine? Kriti, do you have anything to say? Yeah.
Yes, so why would we do that when we can just inherit from the address class in teacher and student class? It won't be a feasible way by doing this, right?
No, I'm not discussing inheritance right now, because there is something. Address class will be again defined as the address class, but concept of inheritance will be used in different way.
Okay,
This is not directly inheritance.
Sir, can you please repeat the last statement you made? I had network issue, so couldn't hear.
Yeah, inheritance is something different. Address class will be defined as a separate class which will be used as a member within these classes. But concept of inheritance is different. So if you want to design, this is first class. So if you want to design a very complex software, and if I try to design it right now, it will be difficult, because you are just beginner. Most of you are beginner. Some of you may have some prior knowledge of object oriented programming or Java or C++, but the thing is, probably we are going to discuss something beyond what you have learned. But one thing I would like to mention here: if you feel that the thing is just reinvention of the same wheel, you know everything, you may leave. But before leaving, or if you don't want to join in the next classes, if you know that object oriented concept and programming language, then please drop me a message so that I can give your attendance. Okay. As an expert, even if I want to design it, I will, just to answer Kriti's question, that I have to define a class person, because there are some common properties. Then within that person, again, address will be used as inner class, and then we can do some inheritance. But directly, address will be defined as class and it will be inherited. This is not the right approach for designing a software. There are some problems. Okay, so we'll discuss the things later on. So here, if you can understand the class and object, let's start with a very simple problem. I'm going to show you that you have to install, for this class, you have to install Java Development Kit. Okay, so you have to download and install JDK. I will prefer Eclipse, but it's up to your choice. You can choose any IDE. Even if you don't use any IDE, you can start with Notepad. Yeah. Hello. Do you have anything to say? Okay. So here, if you install Java Development Kit or JDK, after installing JDK, we will discuss JDK and Java runtime environment in detail in one class, but not at the very beginning. Today, I will give you a very basic concept. We'll just discuss few things, that what you have to do. You can download JDK. After downloading and installing JDK, by default, the path, yeah.
Do you have to define a particular version like JDK 11 or 7 like that, or anyone will work?
Based on your system, try with latest one, but if it doesn't work, then just downgrade it uninstall it
Okay, sir.
and install a lower version. Okay, but according to the curriculum, whatever we will discuss, everything is within Java 1.8.
Okay,
Okay,
sir.
or alternatively we say it's Java 8. We are
Okay.
not going to discuss any functionalities and properties of upper version. The things are not in your syllabus and it's not possible to cover all the things within very short time. Even we are not going to discuss generics and other things. If we have time, then we can discuss the things, but at first we are trying to cover our curriculum. Sorry, I have to close it. Okay. Okay, instead of opening this IDE, let me start with this one. So once you install this software will be installed in some location of C drive. Okay, so it will be either in program files or it will be installed in this one. Okay, in program files you are using 64-bit architecture, so x86 or in program files. Let me check that where it is installed. I have used installed Oracle one. Yeah. No, not this one. So Red Hat. So in my system, I have installed this Java OpenJDK. Okay. So here, after installation, this folder structure is being created. In this folder structure, you will get this directory bin. I think all of you are familiar with this folder name bin or
Yes,
directory
sir.
name bin. So generally in a software, bin contains the executable files. So in this bin directory, we have some utilities, Java utilities. So one utility is java.exe. So this java.exe is used to execute a program. Another thing is we have Java C. This utility is used for compiling a program. Oh, sorry, this one. So Java C, this utility is used for compiling a program. Okay. So we'll start with only these two utilities or commands. One is Java, another one is Java C. Okay. So I'm trying to open and show you that how it works. Can you see this, or I have to increase this font size?
So we can see.
Okay. Still,
Sir, do we need to add this bin path into environment variables?
yeah, I'm coming to that. Okay. So after installation of JDK, in your system, it may be configured properly, but sometimes it is not being configured during system installation. So what you have to do, you have to use these commands to compile a code and to run a code. So if the path variable is not configured properly, then you will not be able to access it from any position of your terminal. Then the solution is you have to enter in that directory. So this command is available in this location. So from your terminal, you have to enter in that location, and then you have to write some code here and you can compile it. This is a thing you will be bored with it. So just to avoid these hectic steps, what we can do, we can configure the path. Okay, you know that in Windows environment or in Linux environment, how to configure this path? So path variable indicates it has lots of values. In Windows environment, the things are separated by semicolon. In Linux environment, things are separated by comma. Okay, so here, if I right click on this my properties, then go to properties, you can go to advanced system settings. Here go to environment variables. So what is the purpose of environment variables? You can define some variables on our system. Okay, there are lots of variables I have defined for my purpose, but to which variable you have to do some changes. So in your system variable, there is a variable named path. I'm going to edit it. Okay. In that variable, you can see that I have added this line, this highlighted line. So highlighted line means this one is the location of the Java utilities. So after installation of OpenJDK, at that location, these files are kept. So I want to compile a code, I want to execute a code. To compile a code, I need Java C utility. To execute a program, I need java.exe utility. So java c.exe or java.exe, these utilities are kept in that location. So from my terminal, if I want to run a command, okay, I want to run a command, then this command is running. The reason is I have configured it properly. Okay, so just I'm going to okay. So from any location, I'm changing my directory. From any location, if I want to run a command, the command will run. Okay. From any location, you can run this command. So if you keep some files in some location, you can compile it using this utility. I can compile it from my terminal. I can run this command from any location. The reason is I have added this in this location. I have added this path of Java C and Java.exe, this utilities, path of these utilities, I have added it in path variable. So when I'm opening a terminal, then if I run a command, it will search for the command in this locations. So Java C or Java, these utilities are available in that location. So system will find that utility. Okay, but in your system, if it is not configured properly, then what you have to do, you have to go to that location where this utility is available. From that location, you have to compile your program, but it becomes very time consuming, so we have to avoid it. So for that purpose, you can copy this path, right click on my computer, go to properties, then advanced system variables, then system variables, edit this variable. Okay, along with this, I would suggest you to configure another thing. So one is you have to update this path variable, and the other thing is in environment variable, add this path Java home. Okay, we are not going to use Java home right now, but this is very important for running an IDE. In most of the cases, or to integrate a system with another system, this Java home is very important. Okay, so what will be the value of this Java home? Java home is the root directory of OpenJDK or JDK you have installed in your system. It will be the root directory, but in path we have added up to bin directory. Okay, but this one is up to root directory. I can just show you again that in path variable it's up to bin directory. So we are mentioning up to bin directory. The reason is system should find this executable file as a command when I'm trying to run it from terminal. If I don't include up to bin, then obviously system will not find that utility. So I have to add up to bin in path and up to the parent directory or root directory in Java home. Okay, so that's all about configuration. In Linux environment, you have to change it. So on different Linux environment, it will be different. So generally we change it or configure it on RC file. Okay, and otherwise you can configure it in .bash profile, .bash underscore profile. In that file you can change it. So you can append this path where Java is installed. So you can append this path in that location. Okay, So if you want to see it, then I can show you, but it will take some time. If you try to configure it, you will get lots of resources, lots of videos. So try to configure it. If you are facing some problem, then I will show you that how to configure it in your Linux environment. And it's my suggestion that try to use Linux environment instead of Windows. Okay. Now let's start with our first program. I am terminating it. Okay, during this configuration, what you have to do? One thing you should note here, that if you have opened a terminal, after that you have configured this path for Java and you are trying to compile it, it will not compile on the same terminal which you have opened earlier. Close the terminal, otherwise open a new terminal. After configuration, open a new terminal, then you can try to check whether it is installed properly or not. Okay, because when you are launching a terminal at that time, whether it's Windows or Linux, whatever it is, when you are launching a terminal, during launch, the values are taken by that shell from the path variables. So if you configure this or update this path variable later on, then the existing terminal or which you have opened earlier, that terminal will not be able to find that command. That's why open a new terminal and test it. In Linux environment, generally what happens that if you configure it, then the configuration will not be reflected even if you open a new terminal. In Windows, if you open a new terminal, it will be, or command prompt in Windows environment, then the reflection will be there. But in Linux environment, it will not be available. So what we have to do? In Linux environment, you have to use the command source. So you have to source this bash file. So source space the bash file, path of the bash file you have to put, and then you have to run it. Then on that terminal it will work. Otherwise you can restart your system. Then from the next boot, the terminal will get all the properties which you have configured in its bash rc profile or bash profile. Okay, so this is the thing. But if you are facing some problem, we will discuss the things. I'll show you that how we have to work on it. Okay, now,
Sir, I have a doubt.
yeah,
Like Eclipse is like basically IDE, but what exactly is JDK?
Eclipse has nothing to do with Java. JDK is development kit. So development kit, wait for some time. Today I will discuss it. Okay, I will discuss it today because I'm going to show you that how this program works. Then I will come to JDK and JRE. And obviously, I will discuss few things on JVM, not the architecture right now. Architecture will be discussed later on, but I will give you some basic knowledge on JDK, JRE, and JVM. I'm coming to that after few minutes. So let us try. So in my system, the path is configured. I'm not going to uninstall and reinstall it because then I have to do lots of changes. Okay, so it will take only 5 minutes in your system, but the things are configured for different softwares in my system. That's why I don't want to change it right now. Okay, now let's try to write a program first. I'm trying to, let's open Notepad. Forget about any editor. So here, let us create class. I'm going to define a class.
Sir, please zoom in.
Is it fine? Or more?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So let's define a class. So before defining any other class, we have to understand that in Java programming language, each and everything should be enclosed within class. In C, we can define functions, we can define some structure within function or outside of function. But in Java, everything should be enclosed within class. Those who are familiar with C++, this is the main difference between Java and C++. In C++, you can write functions outside of a class. You can define a function within a class, but in Java, every function which will be termed as method, in Java we use the term method. Sometimes we can use the term function, but we will prefer to use the term method. So these methods are defined within class. We can't define any variable or declare any variable or define any method outside of any class. So everything should be enclosed within class. Okay. So let us create a class that its test. It will contain main methods. That's why I'm writing test main. Okay. Use proper indentation rule. Now I'm going to save this file on my desktop, and from my desktop, the name of this file is test main. I'm preferring, I will discuss it in detail. So test main, and the name of this file extension should be Java. Okay, so extension of this file name should be Java. So class test main. Within this class, I want to write main function. In C program, we know that program execution will start from main. Similarly, in Java, it will start from main method. So I'm writing this line without explanation. I'm coming to this explanation later on. Public static void, then main. Here we have to add one thing more, that is string args. And I want to print something. That's why I'm trying to use system.out.print. This is our first program. Okay, I'm going to save this program. Now I want to open a terminal. Okay, let's keep it open. This is my program, and I'm trying to open another terminal. So on this terminal, I want to compile this code. So I have to go to that location. Okay, I have to go to desktop, then is desktop. Is it kept on desktop? Oh, this is OneDrive, then desktop. That's the location. Okay, let me open that folder. OneDrive, open this folder, desktop. Oh, there are too many things. Still, you can say that this is the file testmain.java. Okay, this is the file testmain.java. Sorry. Let me show you. So this is testmain.java. this is my program and I want to compile this code. In compiling C programming, if you have C program to compile it, you have used either CC or GCC command. Here we are going to use this command, this utility Java C, Java compiler. Okay, now the file name is testmain.java. If there is any error, it will be reported. If there is no error, it will compile. After compilation, it will generate testmain.class. So look at the left hand side. So on that panel, you can see that there is only one file, testmain.java. After compilation, it will generate another file, testmain.class. Okay, so this class is basically, so in C program, compiling C program, after compilation, what you are getting? You will get a .exe file in Windows environment, a.out file in Linux environment, or if you rename it with parameter, then based on your desired or expected name, the file will be generated. So here the file is being generated as testmain. Okay, so it's a .class file. You can see the extension of this file is .class. So after this file, so this is compilation. Now if I want to run it, then I have to use Java command. So you don't need to mention the extension of the file. You can just write Java name of the class, which encloses main method. So test main, now it is printing hello world. So what is happening here? Can I run it? If I now after compilation, if I share it with you, can you run it on your system? So we have to understand this section. Okay, so this Java file is written in high level programming language. After compilation, this class file is being generated, but this is not an executable file. Okay, so a class file is being generated, but this class file is not executable file. Executable file is different, which can directly be executed on your system without any support. But the Java program cannot be executed on a machine without the platform support. So what's the support? So we have to understand it. So this class file is basically written in bytecode. If I try to open this file using any character editor, then you can see that this is not readable. This file is not readable. Okay, so it's a bytecode. So it's not in plain text, or it's not in machine level instruction. It's a bytecode. So bytecode cannot be executed on your system. So to run these types of program, so if we get a bytecode, so in my system is configured for development purpose. So I have written a program. Now I don't want to share the source code. I have compiled the code. I have generated a class file, and I am sharing it with my friend who can use it on his system. So when you will try to use this software or this class file, then in his system, Java runtime environment must be installed. Otherwise, you will not be able to run this program on his system. So Java runtime environment is responsible for converting these class files to machine level instructions during execution. So at runtime, it will interpret it. This class file will be interpreted to machine level instructions, and it will execute on that system. So this is the responsibility of the Java runtime environment. But when we are compiling a Java code, the .class file which is being generated here, this .class file doesn't contain machine level instructions. So it's the generated file is a file having bytecodes, which can be read by Java runtime environment itself. So Java runtime environment can read it, can translate it to machine level instructions, but it will not be translated once. like when you are compiling a C program, after compilation, directly an executable file is being generated which contains machine level instructions for that system. But Java runtime environment doesn't generate this executable code. Instead of that, when this class is being loaded in it, it will translate the instructions, this bytecode instructions, to machine level instructions, but not at a time. It will translate it during runtime. So one .class file will never be translated to a machine level code in one shot. It's not like that. It will translate this code to machine level instruction and it will execute. So Java runtime environment is responsible for that. Now, when you are installing JDK, then you are getting some additional benefit. This one is Java compiler. If runtime environment is being installed in someone's machine, in that machine Java code cannot be compiled, but Java code can be executed. So Java runtime environment can take this class file as input and run it. But if you want to compile a Java code to class file, you need Java C utility. But this Java C utility is not present in runtime environment. This is present in development kit. That's why as a developer, you have to install Java development kit. And if you install Java development kit, by default, JRE is being installed in your system as a part of development kit. Okay. So if you download Java runtime environment or JRE, you can run program. You can't compile. But if you install Java development kit, you will get compiler as well as runtime environment. So both will be installed. So Java compiler will be installed along with this runtime environment will be installed in your machine. Okay. So Java C is a utility which is present in JDK, which is not present in JRE, but Java utility is present in JRE. Is it fine up to this? Do you have any query?
Sir, I have two questions.
Yeah.
So first, in the previous class, Rika, you were talking about the C, and you said that suppose we generate a file a.c after compilation of a C file, so we can't share it because it contains the architecture of that machine. So is it not the same case with this class file?
Yeah. I'm coming to that. So, okay, what is the other question?
Second, like suppose in one directory, there are two different files which has nothing to do with each other, but they both has same class name. They both contains a same class name. So I had a doubt, like while I think so. Can you open the command prompt, please? Yeah, so here, like while executing, you wrote just Java test main. You haven't mentioned the class name, like dot class file. So how does the system determines like which file it will be?
No. When we are running this command, we are calling this command Java. So Java will load only class files. Even if there is a .java extension, but when we are writing test main, it indicates that this program is written in that way that if I mention test main, then it will read the file test main.class. That logic is written in this command. Okay. So even if you have some files test main.java, test main.abc, test main.xyz, none of them will be loaded. Only test main.class file will be loaded here. Just like this, let me go there. I'm going to delete this class file. I have only .java file. Okay, now I'm trying to run it. Could not find or load main class test main. Okay, so it is showing some exception. Forget about it right now. So it is unable to load the class file because there is no file by this name testmain.class. Okay, it is searching for testmain.class file only.
Also, sir, if a Java file contains 5 classes, so after compilation, will it be generating 5 different .class files?
No, I will discuss the things later. Today it's not possible. I will show you in the next class. Okay, so up to this, any other doubt?
Sir,
Yeah,
sir, that means dot class file contain the byte codes, right?
yeah, .class file is written in bytecode. Okay, now we have to go to the next point. So next point is basically the thing which has been started by Ashutosh. So after compilation, this byte code is being generated, and when you are trying to run it, this file is being loaded in system. Now the question is that when we are talking about C programming language, we say that this programming language is machine dependent. Okay, so this programming language is machine dependent because if you compile it in 32-bit architecture, it may not work on 64-bit architecture. If you compile it on 64-bit architecture, it may not work on 32-bit architecture until explicitly there is a support of legacy system. Okay, so it's true. If we compile it on 32-bit, it will not work in 64-bit. Even if we compile it in Windows, it will not run in Linux, and vice versa. Now, the problem is Java code platform dependent or platform independent? Once we compile a code, so after compilation, the .class file which is being generated, this .class file can be executed in every platform. So if I share this .class file, I'm compiling it on Windows environment. If I share it with Ashutosh who is using Linux environment, it will work in his system. If I share it with Tanushree, then this program will run in Tanushree's machine even if she is using Mac. But the problem is, so can I say that this object Java programming language is platform independent? I can share, I don't need to share the source code, I can share .class file and it will work in every system. So there is a huge debate and it's not conclusive. The reason is this, that in case of C program, after compilation, the file which is being generated, you can run it on that similar machine. Okay, but the Java code cannot be executed without having Java runtime environment. If you have Java runtime environment, you can run it. Now these runtime environments are different. So try to understand, same .class file will run on Windows as well as on Linux. But the problem is, it will run on those systems where we have runtime environment. If we don't have runtime environment, it will not run. That's one thing. But C doesn't require runtime installation of runtime environment. It will run directly on the operating system. So this is one difference. Another difference is, if we install runtime environment, then these runtime environments are different. So different means, if you download JDK or JRE for Windows machine and if you download JDK or JRE for Linux machine, these softwares are different. You are downloading from same website, but these software packages are different. In Windows machine, you have to install .exe file. It's an executable file, jdk.exe or jre.exe. In Linux environment, if it supports RPM or if it supports deb for Debian machine, so you have to install RPM or deb. So these softwares are dependent on the operating system. So there is no clear boundary about it. There is no clear boundary. Even the developers or inventors of Java, they haven't given any conclusion, and obviously they are unable to give any conclusion that whether we can say Java is platform independent or Java is platform dependent. So any programming language can be called as platform independent if it doesn't require any additional software, but Java requires additional software. This is one problem. Similar to some other programming languages, you are already expert in those languages like Python. Okay, I'm not going to that discussion. Let's forget about it. Let's come to C and Java only. So in case of Java, when we are running it, then these instructions are being converted to machine level instruction, but not at a time. Line by line will be translated during execution. The things are a little bit complex. I don't want to discuss the things in first class. It will be discussed in detail later on. Okay. Here, what we have to understand that when we are compiling this code and we are running it, what is the criteria of saying that this is independence or platform independence? If we say that after compilation, the generated code, if this generated code can be executed on any platform with the help of some runtime environment, and we will say that this is platform independent, it's fine. Then we can say Java is platform independent. But if we say that this program should run on operating system directly, the .class file doesn't run on operating system directly, so it will not be called as platform independent system or programming language. So it's fine. So if you are being asked, this is a very common question during interview, technical interview. So instead of just saying that Java is platform independent or dependent, please explain this. Okay. Now we have, I can continue up to 10:25 today. I have a meeting from 10:30. Okay, I have to go to boardroom. So just here, I want to show you few things, but I will continue from the next class. Okay, and it's my request to you, can you give me some extra slot? In 3 periods in a week, it's impossible for me to complete. Then what will happen at the end of the semester? I will just cover the things which you have in your syllabus. But being an engineer, I would expect that you will learn beyond that. Just learning the things for your MCQ exam, probably the next semester will be in the same mode. So learning the things in that way will not be good. So if you give me time, extra time, then I will try to share something more with you, but it's completely dependent on you. Please, seers, you may arrange some discussion and you can inform me that whether you are interested to attend some extra classes or not. And
sir, actually, like teachers are following a different routine for now, like whatever we received. So like we don't know on which day, at what time there will be a class or not.
Please ask everyone about their schedule. I can share you my schedule. So take it from everyone. Okay, don't ask for the printed document. At least in discussion, you can ask them that what are the slots and you can note it down. Okay.
Okay, sir.
So accordingly, you can do it. Okay. The thing is, if we follow the offline routine mode in this semester, the things are very difficult because everyone is overloaded. Then we have to stay at least 7 to 8 hours in every day in classroom. That's a huge pressure that happens here right now. Okay. So that's why we are merging the classes. Otherwise, we have no intention to merge section 1 and section 2 in same class. Even we want to split your labs in 30 batches, but it's difficult because in that case we have to spend whole time in classroom, and after that we have to do our official activities in evening or night. That will be the common schedule. Okay. As number of section is increasing right now, that's why. Okay, here let me show you. Okay, I'm going to. These things are becoming clumsy. Let me just create a folder. I'm creating a folder. Say it's what is it? Java. Say it's Java programs. I'm putting it there. So from my terminal, I will enter in this location. Then I can compile the code. Okay. Now, this is my code. So as we have mentioned that everything needs to be enclosed in class. That's why even main method is enclosed within this class. Okay. Now, just to give you this explanation in one line, we will discuss the things later on. Public. This method needs to be public, otherwise we can't access it from our terminal. So this method needs to be accessible globally. That's why its access specifier is public. So this is an access specifier. You have not learned about access specifier in C. So this is an access specifier. So there are 4 types of access specifiers: public, protected, default, and private. So this method is visible from anywhere outside. That's why we are able to execute this program from outside of this program. So we can access it from terminal. Static, the concept is almost similar what you have learned in C. So without allocating or creating an object of test main, I think these few lines will make you confusing. So don't be confused. We'll discuss the things later on in detail so that you will never forget. So right now, just to mention that without creating any object of test main class, I want to access this main method. That's why we are going to make or declare this variable, method as static. So if we declare a static variable in C, then during execution, memory is being allocated for the static variable. Similarly, as this method is static, then for this method, memory is being allocated in JVM. Okay, during loading. That's why it is being declared as static. This method is not returning anything to operating system. In C program, we know that main function should return an integer value to operating system. If it's successful, it will return 0. If it's not successful, it will return an error code. But it should return a code to the operating system so that OS can take necessary steps for deallocating the resources which have been allocated earlier for that process. But here, Java is not running directly on operating system. So if we say that there is an operating system layer, on top of this operating system, there will be another layer. This layer is Java runtime environment. So in Java runtime environment, there is a module which is Java virtual machine. We will explain it later on. Okay. So in Java virtual machine, this class file, .class file is being loaded in Java virtual machine. then it gets execution. So when this file will be loaded in JVM, at that time memory will be allocated for this method main, and this method, when these Java programs are running, it will communicate with the JVM, and JVM will interact with the operating system. So this method is not returning any value, or it is not interacting with the operating system directly. That's why this method doesn't return any value to the operating system. So its return type is void. But you may think that, but it is being executed in JVM. So when it is executing in JVM, it should return some value to JVM. So in C, program is returning the value to the operating system. But here, this program is communicating with the JVM. JVM is communicating with the operating system. So this program should return a value to JVM. Now, JVM is working as a monitor. Okay. Something like in your classroom, there can be two ways of notification. One is if someone is facing some problem in your classroom, someone is sick, someone for sickness he wants to leave college, so that information will be sent to us, so we can grant leave. This is one way. Another way is I'm selecting someone as monitor. So who is monitoring the whole classes every time. So he is responsible for gathering this information whether everyone is sick or not. So this is externally, this is being monitored. So JVM is externally monitoring the current health of the program, and whatever resources are allocated for this program, it is being monitored by JVM. So it is being monitored from externally. That's why it doesn't require any returning any value to the JVM explicitly. Automatically JVM will take care of it, whether this program is running properly or not, whether it has been interrupted, whether there is any exception. So for what kind of problem it has been terminated, everything will be taken care by JVM. Okay. So in that way it will work. That's why we don't need this main method in Java. It never returns integer value. Even if I write this is as integer, then let's check what happens. I'm trying to compile this program. It will not. What happened? Something is wrong. Is there anything missing? Return statement? Oh, sorry. Yeah. Return 0. Okay. I'm writing it. Then I'm compiling this code. Okay. After compilation, if I want to run this program, oh my God, just 1 minute, please. Sorry for the interruption. Okay, now after compiling this program, I have compiled it. Now let's try to run it. So compilation is successful. The .class files has been generated. But when I'm trying to run this program, see the difference. It is unable to run because in Java, this is the signature, it should be followed. Otherwise, that method will be treated as a normal method. It will not be treated as a starting point. Okay, so this method will be treated as a normal method. As I have written, it's a int. It is searching for void main, which is not available. That's why the program is not running. Okay. Oh God. Okay. So it should be public static void main. Now, okay, I can't continue today. So I'm taking your attendance. I'll continue on the next day from this. I have made a chaos today. From 10, 11, 15, I have another class. Hello, ma'am.